Hello, welcome to Creative Matthew. So last week I briefly talked about thumbnails and I said let's show that process. So you can see this canvas. It has all these small little rectangles. Those are going to be, each area is going to be for an individual thumbnail. Thumbnailing is something you do for yourself based on what you're doing it for. In concept art, you're creating an idea for a company that wants to create a game or a movie. Or maybe it's not even for that. Maybe they want a character for their company, like a mascot. Kind of like how the gecko is for Geico. That's Geico Gecko. Kind of obvious since it's used a kind of real gecko. But let's say, or like it's a character for a cereal. They want you to create some ideas. They're like, okay, here's the cereal. Here's generally what we want. Or sometimes it's like, we don't know what animal or character or creature or whatever it's going to be will fit. Give us some ideas. And so they want something that's going to be cleaned up more than a thumbnail. But the thumbnail's for your own purpose to get your ideas out on paper so that you can see what is working, what is not, and you can find it. So that way you can give them the 3 or 4 finished things. When I say finished, it's still based upon what they're looking for. If they're looking for just rough ideas, you don't want to have this three-dimensional fancy smanchy, it looks like it's going to be in the game or in the commercial thing. That's for them to do. You're just giving them the idea. But you do want it cleaned up to a degree. And I talked a little bit about that last week. So for fine art, you do thumbnails to give your composition. I did a piece with a cougar and I did the background just plain blue. And the composition didn't work as well. It would have been a lot better to have actually stuff in it. And that's where thumbnailing would have come in handy. I mean, I did do a little bit of practice drawing the cougar before to get the cougar part right, but I should have actually added in the background in my practicing to see what background would have actually worked better. So we're going to do something for concept piece. We're going to use a game that's still in my head that I remember playing, A Link to the Past, Zelda. So Link started off in this little it wasn't a hut. It was better than a hut. A house. A little house with his, I think it was his uncle. His uncle goes off, and then you are able to start playing the game, and you go through and explore and try to find where your uncle disappeared to. But let's say Link is a hermit in this one. He's out on his own. He doesn't like people, and he's to become the hero. He's become the Link that we've all come to know and love. So we're going to give 3 ideas of maybe where he lives. So 1, and we'll have mountains in the background. And yes, those are just rough mountains. You're not trying to do anything fancy. Let's see, that's a nice little area. It has a little river running through. And you have this hut. Well, that's a little bit bigger for a hut, but let's cut it. Let's jump over here. I need better. I was doing something differently, and I used a different type of eraser, soft eraser. Soft erasers don't give harsh lines. And so you have mountains, you have some trees. And it literally is just the rough, just giving your idea out on paper. To give quick ideas to yourself to say, does this work? Let's do another one where it's out like in the plains. So you just have a bunch of grasses all around. And this is another one where he's actually in the mountains, on top of the mountain. just quick rough ideas, and you think which one might work best. And in reality, you'd probably present 2 or 3 actual finished things. So you'd probably want to do a whole page of just that. But I want to show different thumbnails for different things. So I'm going to go to something different. But that might be, you do a whole page of just different ideas of landscapes of where he might be as this hermit character. And especially since, I mean, the benefit of that is that you already know this character. Well, hopefully. I say hopefully, but I think a lot of people have played the game, or at least are familiar with it. And if you haven't, get to know the character. Since there's lots of games out there, you can actually just do, rather than, you can't, it'd be expensive trying to buy all the games. You wouldn't do that. But nowadays with YouTube, you can watch Let's Plays. And those Let's Plays, you can get an idea of the character. Because to design the character, you really need to understand the character. It's not essential, you can, but if you want a character to really have a life to it, and not just be, okay, it looks cool, but I don't know about it. You want it to actually have some life. Get to know the character. If it's something you're designing for yourself, just write it out. Who is this character? Why did it exist? What are their likes, dislikes? So going from that, let's say I'm going to design a character. Let's see. So let's give a quick idea of what this character is. Let's say this character is a wizard. I like magic, so I'm going to use a wizard. Character's a wizard, but they're not the best at their skill. They're a little sloppy. So they want to be better. So what do? Well, you're going to take things that you can do the traditional hat with stars, moons, stars. And let's say this is going to be cartoonish. We're not making a realistic looking character. Mainly just because it'd be a little easier. Let's see, his hand's out here with the wand. How would you make, because if he's unsure, how would you do the wand? Maybe have him hold it a little bit. Here's his wand. You probably do more than this. Like, you probably do the full thing, but this is just giving rough ideas. Let's say instead of that, we do it's almost cowboyish. I have a little magic hat for like fun magic trick stuff. So let's say it's this, and let's see, he's you're really just trying to get your ideas out on the paper. You're roughing things out. I mean, it literally is this rough. And then if you like the idea, you might go through another thumbnails to refine that idea. You still might not have it quite where you want it. Or you might like already have it where you want, and then you just refine it in the sense that you fancy it up, clean it up, get it to look presentable. And that's one of your ideas. And then you go through another set of thumbnails to get some more. Well, I know I'll do a thumbnail of something I already designed. A sorceress, so it's still magical. but in this case, it's an animal. It looks more like a bear, but we'll stick with that. Since we're not going to use the traditional hat, we're using something like a medallion and a staff. So what would be? I know. A bear wizard with a honey staff. These are obviously just fun ideas. They're not really serious, but then again, if you have something that's just a fun concept that the company is doing, it's not supposed to be serious. You're going to do it a little differently compared to like Dark Souls or something where it's still fun, but it's fun in a completely different way. It's more like I don't know, hard to explain. But there's Mario fun, there's Zelda fun, there's Dark Souls fun. Each one has a unique, different feel to it. Mario is lots of bright colors and it can be pretty wacky. Still within reason. It's not completely outside the box. You still have turtles that generally look like turtles. But you have Bowser who can breathe fire and stuff like that. He's supposed to be kind of a turtle dragon type thing. But still kind of fun. So that's a character. That's something that acts or something. Now let's do a creature. Let's say it's like Dark Souls. Understand I'm doing this without reference. In reality, you would have references for each one of these things. Because these things are really rough. They don't really you'd have references that you'd use like if you're going to create a animal sorceress or a wizard, have different animals references that you're going to use and have different ones that you create. If it's going to be a person, you would bring up kind of magician outfits, wizard outfits. Mix a little bit of the reality of the magicians that you see on TV or nowadays is just on shows that your business might hire. Mix a little bit of that with the fantasy to get something that's a little bit more believable. So for creatures, you might want to make this creature based upon a scorpion mixed with a spider and an ant. Then have reference. Professionals use reference all the time. So use reference. On that note, let's say we have a scorpion claws. Let's say we have a head more similar to a spider. With some legs. They almost look like beetle wings. Actually, not. Let's do wings like a beetle. That still looks like. And then, we'll just have a back end. So that might be an idea for creature. That's actually kind of fun. That'd be a fun idea to take to a full rendered out image. Let's take something that's opposite. Let's take something that's going to be a creature, but it's going to be more just cutesy. And I think you get the idea. But that's thumbnailing. It's literally just roughing things out for yourself, giving yourself some ideas, and coming up with things like an example, my little spider, beetle-winged, scorpion hand, claws. That actually would be fun to bring out to a full thing, and maybe in the future I might. But for like a wizard character that's going to be in a movie or a game, you would come up with these different ideas, and ideally have a reference even for the thumbnailing. I mean, unless you already have some ideas in your head, you can quickly start getting them out. But still, if you're trying to combine things, it's good to have some reference to know what those things look like. If you paint something a lot, like I can get a cartoon tiger or cougar out pretty easily. Realistically, I still need the reference to make sure I'm doing the proportions correctly, because that's one thing that makes things cartoonish. Unusual proportions, exaggerated proportions, can make something look cartoonish. So if you're trying for realistic and it's not looking right, then your proportions are probably off. Your perspective might also be off. Perspective in a landscape, so like up here, things slowly get smaller as they go further away. Are they really getting smaller? No, but that's our perception. When we're standing there and we're looking out in real life, as we look outwards, things that are closest to us are looking larger and things that are further away look smaller because of perspective, because of the way we see. And so you duplicate that in your artwork in order to create something that looks believable. Well, perspective on a character or a creature is also about if their head is tilted. So their head's tilted, their eye line, their nose, their mouth are all going to be tilted like that. If you have their eyes like this and their nose like this, and yet their head's like, it's going to look way off. Even for a cartoon character, you don't want to quite do that. This is illustration that you're trying to make look really weird and just awkward. This is supposed to be a concept piece. If you are trying to do something that's supposed to create an emotion, if you're doing a fine piece of fine art that's supposed to create a feeling of just contention, like, okay, something's wrong, or you might do that. Though if you make it really obvious, it's not as good. It might be better to have just something off. Not enough to make it so they can see it on it, obviously, but they just know something's off if you want to create that kind of feeling. And that's part of the art, but we're not going to get into that now. But for this, you want to try to make sure your perspective's correct and stuff. And so to do that, you want to know the proportions of that animal, and then you can choose what to exaggerate, what to keep. I did an owl where I did some exaggeration a little bit. That owl a while back in one of the videos. But anyway, so this has been Creative Matthew. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. If it has, like, subscribe, you know the usual. And anyway, Anyang Chi case, or I need to figure out what this, I can't remember. I used to know what it was. It's Anyang Chi Keseo. Anyang Chi or G or Gi. Anyang Chi Keseo. Keseo. It's definitely a K sound. Anyang Chi Kaseo. Keseo, which means stay in peace. Anyang Chi Kaseo is leave in peace. But I know I'm not saying it right. I have to go back and look it up, but anyway, adios, goodbye. That's the only way I know how to say goodbye is in those different languages. But anyway, I know I'm not bilingual, as you can tell. It's kind of obvious. But I do appreciate all the different cultures and languages and food, especially food. Anyway, well, bye-bye.